Prater and the Ballgame are counting down the days to the start of Boise State football's fall camp, August 3rd.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
7 of the hottest topics on Bronco football. Countdown to camp on Sports Radio 95.3, The Ticket.
And it is topic number 7 right now, and it is also our video segment on Idaho Sports Talk. Bob Behler subbing for Johnny Mallory today. Mike Prater, JP here as well. You can get our video segment on all of our social media channels. Prater, topic number 7. The only area we haven't hit so far is special teams. And I think it was an area that was good last year for Boise State. Could it have been better? Maybe. But I think it was solid. It was in the upper echelon of all of the different categories in the Mountain West. I think Jonah Dallas was near perfect. Not only did he make more field goals than anybody in the conference, but he also had a higher percentage than anybody in the conference.
Bob, you said this is Camp Countdown number 7. I like to think of it as the last one before camp. Camp opens tomorrow, so this will be our last segment on this deal, and we're all fired up. Yeah, we've been hitting you for a whole week on these Camp Countdown stories. Before we dive into the special teams, though, I did a little roster maintenance last night. We got the official roster yesterday and confirmed a lot of things with Andy Avalos, and there's some fun things about this roster before we dive into the special teams. 109 players are on this roster. They'll be in camp tomorrow morning, all 109. Andy Avalos said that the cap is going to be 110, and there are the expectations here. He said we're in the middle of the process, and we just have to finalize a few things. They're going to add some kind of a running back. I have no idea who that person is or where they're coming from. So there's going to eventually be 110. As of right now, 51 on offense and 51 on defense. So I can see Tim Plow and Spencer Danielson arm wrestling for players, and looks like it was a draw. And then you have 7 special teams guys. So that's pretty well divided across the board there. There are 14 transfers on this team, 14 transfers out of 109 players. That tells me that Andy Avalos is being very, very responsible with the transfer portal. 6 of those transfers are from Power 5 programs, touch and base here and there. So the transfer portal is not a big part of what Boise State is doing. When it comes to 6th-year players, there are 9. There are 23 other seniors, so 32 total upperclassmen. And in terms of redshirt freshmen and true freshmen, 51. That leaves you 12 juniors and 14 sophomores. So they're really heavy on the bottom. They're really heavy at the top. And they got a lot of, not a lot of experience and a lot of numbers in the middle. 17 Idaho kids on this roster out of the 109 players. And I'm going to dive this into the soapbox here in a little bit. I remember in 1994 when I first started covering Boise State football, they had 1 head coach, 9 assistant coaches, and a strength coach. And I think that was kind of it. Boise State is going to camp tomorrow with 31 people on its football staff. 31 people on its football staff, including new advisor, Cutter and Collins, and a whole bunch of assistants and weight strength guys and video coordinators and GAs. 31 people on Boise State staff. If you guys are wondering what's going on behind the scenes in terms of how Boise State is building the infrastructure for football, 31 that number shocked me. I didn't expect it to be that big. Now, a couple years ago, we heard the story. Alabama's got 36 on its staff, and Nick Saban, I'm sure, is paying very, very well. And I'm sure a lot of these other analysts and GAs at Boise State are, they're probably running across the street at Albertsons for their second job when they have to. But, at least they're in the business. Boise State's making a commitment. 31 people on this staff kind of blew me away, Bob. And that's Prater math. And I even double-checked it. I don't think there's anything wrong there.
The 17 from Idaho that you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
You think that's more or less than normal? Because if you had asked me to guess, I would have guessed less. Now, I would think probably a fair number of them are walk-ons, I would guess.
Yes, I think I'm a pretty decent majority. Well, I'm going to guess probably about half are walk-ons. Out of 110, I think it's probably a little smaller than what it's been in the past, but I didn't do that math. I guarantee you it's a lot smaller than what Idaho and Idaho State and College of Idaho have. So out of the 4 football teams in this state, it's by far the least amount. But there's some big time players. Scott Matlocks and some other players we're still waiting for, like an Austin Bolt. Ajuku is a big one. So yes, there's out of the 19 offensive linemen, and I think that was the biggest group in terms of the number of 18 offensive linemen. 2 of them are from Idaho, 16 are not. So that was the biggest position group, 18 offensive linemen. So That's kind of a breakdown of that, Bob. Talk special teams.
All right. Jonah Dallas, I think, is going to be one of the best kickers in the country. And I think they're hoping he doesn't make 26 field goals.
Yeah.
They want him to make the same percentage. He only missed one extra point. And here was a note when I was comparing what Boise State special teams did last year with the other teams in the Mountain West. As I mentioned, more field goals made, higher percentage. So Dalmas wins both categories. Not only does he kick more, he makes more, and it's at a better percentage.
Nice.
How many extra points do you think would have been missed by the whole league last year?
Oh, wow. Let's go 4 times. Let's go 4 times 11. Let's go 44.
How about 6?
What?
6 extra points were missed by the whole league.
That's crazy.
That's what I thought. When I'm adding up the numbers, I'm looking. They didn't miss any. They didn't miss any. They didn't miss any. Oh, we missed 1. They missed 1. Somebody missed 2.
Wow. I guess kudos to kickers, I guess.
In this league. Punters, I think probably the punt game with Velasquez being gone, it'll either be James Ferguson Reynolds or Gavin Whale punting.
Yep.
He averaged 43.1 a punt, net 40.1. So Boise State did a decent job kicking the ball from scrimmage last year. Opponents only averaged a little better than 7 a return. That was 4th best. So they're again in the top half there. And as far as opponent punts, they blocked 2 punts last year. And the way Boise State special teams have gone, I'd expect to block 2 more for touchdowns this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they're kind of on a roll there, and I think they found somewhat of a niche that they can exploit. So that PAT number is shocking to me. The kicking competition is non-existent, although Wyatt Redding is a backup kicker, and then there's also Will Farron, who's a kicker and a punter. But I can't wait to see what happens, and I don't think I've ever said this, and I don't ever want to say it again, and don't ever repeat it. But I can't wait to see the punting competition between Gavin Whale and James Ferguson Reynolds. I'm personally rooting for James Ferguson Reynolds. I love the Aussie style. I think it brings an air of entertainment and fun, and I also think it's highly effective and highly efficient. So I want to see what he can do. Boise State last year, despite the reputation around here, was pretty good at the punting game. The year before was the couple of years before, some serious inconsistencies, and you saw a little bit of that last year. But for the most part, I think the punting game was really good last year. It would be sad to go back, especially with James Ferguson Reynolds. I'd like to see him win this job.
And nobody asked about it yesterday, but nobody asked who's going to kick off, because Velasquez kicked off, and I thought his kickoffs were extremely consistent with touchbacks.
Big foot.
And we'll see if Dalmas kicks or whether they don't want to use his leg, whether somebody like Farron can win the kickoff job, or whether they decide, you know what, Dalmas can do both.
That's a good question, Bob.
I just thought of it sitting here now. I didn't think of it yesterday.
We did not ask. We ask about every stinking position, every stinking backup, all 109 players. We got all the return stuff covered. There's not answers. We'll talk about the return game here in a minute, but I didn't think about the kickoff part because Boise State has split that up in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Well, I have a follow-up for tomorrow. I'm sure people are fired up for that. Who's going to be the kickoff guy? and the long snapper, looks like your long snapper is going to be Mason Hutton.
Yep.
206. What? I just noticed this. 6'6". Can you be a long snapper at 6'6"? Can you get your butt down that low? 6'6", 230 pounds, out of Hillcrest High School in Riverside, California. They also brought in a Alec Grant added this summer. I think Alec Grant might even be a local kid if I remember right, but I'd have to double check on that. So there's a couple of updates there. The return game, Bob, Steph Cobbs and maybe George Helani.
The interesting thing about punt returns last year, and this is why I think sometimes stats are misleading. Boise State averaged 15.6 yards for every punt they actually returned. If it was a fair catch, it goes as a nothing. It doesn't go against your average either.
15 is a good number for punt return.
Yes. But I think it's a bit false, because when you only return 15 of them and one goes for 81 yards for a touchdown, it kind of skews the number up a little.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Shaq took more of the punts. He had 9 of them last year that he actually returned. Fair caught a lot of them. Cobbs just returned the one, but it went to the house against UTEP. And then they averaged league kind of middle average, 20.2 yards a kick return last year. Shaq took 3 of them. Cobbs took 10 of them, and they basically were in the low 20s.
They did talk about Cobbs is probably going to win that job. I think he's, I don't want to say locked in because anything's possible, but it seems like that's going to happen. And then George Helani has been thrown out there as a return guy as well.
Not specified whether it's punt or kick or both. They just said they used the term, at least when I was listening, return kind of vaguely.
Yeah.
I think the most important decision, most important things to my punt returner is decision making. When to catch the ball, when to not let it hit the ground, when to let it go, and when to decide to return it. I think you want somebody back there, and I think that's one of the reasons Shakir was back there so often last year. A lot of games were close. They trusted him to make the right decision.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And also there's, the punt return, it seems like there's every single play, every single punt return, there's a possibility of just complete disaster. The way the game is designed today, kickoff returns, at least half of them are going in the end zone. The rules, are very, very generous. Let it go over your head, and you can put it on the 25, right?
On a punt, it's only at the 20.
At the 20, okay. So it seems, you got a little bit more space, and maybe that's where George Helani can get in there. We've talked ad nauseum the last couple of weeks about the lack of running back depth. Boise State has 3 running backs, and they're thinking about taking their injury-prone running back, George Helani, and putting him in the return game. And I asked Tim Plow that question yesterday because I thought he would say, yeah, I lost that battle.
Mm-hmm. No.
His answer was, I'm in favor of putting the ball in George's hands as much as possible.
I think you want to put the ball in either George or Steph, who I think are your 2 best ball handlers, ball carriers, at times that matter. And a lot of times the best chance to get them out in the open field to do damage is on a kick or a punt.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll see them. If Boise State is leading, let's say they're leading El Paso by 3 touchdowns at halftime. I don't know that I would use George Helani as a kick returner up 21 at halftime.
I think I would be very selective about that. Absolutely.
But if George Helani were going to take the second half kickoff in a tie game with Oregon State, I think that would be a situation where I'd say, yeah, we need him out there.
Yeah. Put the ball in the best player's hands. Has Helani ever returned anything at Boise State? I don't remember that, but I didn't look it up either. Was there a random here, a random there? I don't remember.
I don't think he did anything last year because, they were bringing him off the injury list. I can't remember whether as a true freshman, he only played a couple of games in 20. So it would have had to be in 19 if he did it.
I just, obviously they know, and they're going to make decisions, and they'll have a whole month of camp to figure it all out. But in terms of everything you just said, because I think you're right. This is way, way more than about talent. It's about smart decision making. It's about, dealing with that complete total chaos. I'm just looking here. He's had in 19, he had 1 kick return, and in 20, he had 1 punt return. I'm not sure if those were by design or just something weird happened.
I don't think he would have been out there to take the punt return by being like an up guy and getting it. I think he would have had to be back.
Although he went 29 yards. Mm-hmm. He went 29 yards on his only punt return. He went 16 on his only kick return. So they like what he can do. I mean, he's obviously got the talent. There's no doubt about that. Oh, wait, no. Wait, I'm looking at stupid stats. It's not a punt return. I'm looking at Boise State's stats. He had a punt in 2020 for 29 yards. It wasn't a return, it was a punt.
Must have been like a quick kick.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a looking like we're going to go for it on 4th down.
So
he really is versatile. He kicks too.
He can punt.
And maybe if Ferguson, Reynolds, and Whale don't work out, maybe Helani will be there.
29 yards. That's not a terrible. Okay, that's as bad. You suck at punting, George Helani. But yeah, 1 kick return, no punt returns, and I can't wait to see how that plays out. If that works out, kudos to Boise State coaches for taking the gamble. For risking George Helani in terms of running back depth and doing the right thing and putting the ball in the hands of your best players.
Sometimes that's the biggest play of the game.
Yes, sir.
So we'll see how they play it out. And I think a lot will depend on how they're feeling about him and maybe how they're feeling about Tyler Crow and Ashton Genty, because a lot of times when you go for a kick or a punt return, a lot of times that player will go out for the next, especially if they have a long return. Yep. will go to the bench for a couple of plays to start the drive. So you
Yep.
have to be comfortable with who's in there. Prater, we've talked about concert season being here. Tickets are getting expensive to go to concerts.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. Yeah. I've been to several, I've probably been to 15, 18 shows this summer. Thankfully there's sales. Thankfully there's things like we're giving away concert tickets every hour, all week long. There's ways and there's creative ways to be marketing, but there's also some serious concern out there. JP doesn't go to a concert unless it's free. You don't go to concerts at all. You'd spend $1,000 to go to a baseball game, no problem about it. But would you spend $5,000 to go to a Bruce Springsteen concert?
No, wouldn't even think twice.
Yeah,
I'd say I'll get the CD or the listen online.
I know. I could ask JP, but I know the answer to that one. Don't I, JP?
You do know the answer to that, but Britter, I did pay for a concert ticket this year.
Did you really?
I did, yes, to the Flaming Lips. I spent my own money on the Flaming Lips.
Nice, JP.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
yeah.
I very much appreciate that and take that back. But yeah, the price between like Adele and Bruce Springsteen, we're talking like $5,000 for a ticket. It's crazy. Even like Lady Gaga, obstructed view with a pole and a side view of the stage, $500. Something is going wrong. I know there's inflation everywhere. It's one thing to pay $4 for a carrot. I ain't paying $1,000 to see Bruce Springsteen. Let's talk about this, Bob.
That's coming up next on Sports Radio, The Ticket.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this is Ticket Traffic.
There is a traffic collision westbound on the freeway at Overland.